So I just bought my first apartment and it's pretty small and the kitchen is even smaller. So I thought, why not start a cooking channel where I make the national dish of every country? I decided I needed to expand my horizon a bit, since almost every time I cook it ends up being chili con carne, which is really amazing. But let's see what else is out there. So we're starting with the Afghan dish Kabuli Pulao, which I'm probably mispronouncing, sorry about that. And I'm basing this on the recipe from afghancooks.com. Link is in the description. And since I'm only cooking for myself today, I'm reducing everything by half. So first off, we're rinsing 3.5 deciliters or 1.5 cups of rice till the water runs clear. Then we're soaking it for an hour. Then we are making our char masala spice mix, which consists of equal parts cumin, cardamom, cloves, and cinnamon. The recipe calls for black cardamom, but I couldn't find it, so I'm using regular cardamom. Then pat dry and dice the meat. I'm using leg of lamb here. This is a little less than 680 grams or 1.5 pounds, which is actually almost double the amount that the recipe calls for. But I actually didn't think it ended up being too much meat in relation to the rest of the elements. As you can see, this meat has some fat on it, but I'm choosing to keep all of it because this is a dish for parties and special occasions, and it's supposed to be tasty, not necessarily healthy. Then we're adding some sesame oil to a pan, and over medium-high heat we're frying 1 onion and 2 cloves of garlic, roughly chopped, for about 1 minute before adding a tablespoon of whole cumin seeds. Then after about 30 seconds we're adding the meat. Make sure it's browned on all sides before adding a generous sprinkle of salt and 1.5 cups of water, and then we're letting it simmer for about 1 hour or until the meat is fork tender. In the meantime, we're adding 125 grams or 8.8 ounces of raisins to hot water, and we're letting it soak for about 5 minutes. Next, we're julienning 1.5 carrots, or about 125 grams or 5.2 ounces. This was a new technique for me, as you can probably see. You have to cut the carrots into manageable pieces, then cut them into sort of sheets. Then we're cutting those into thin strips. We're making a packet of carrot and raisins, so first prepare a sheet of aluminum foil. Then we're frying the carrots in oil over medium heat until soft and replacing them in the foil. Next, we're frying the raisins in the same pan for about 30 seconds and placing them with the carrots. Then we're boiling some water for the rice. Obviously, you're supposed to use a pot for this, but I didn't have one big enough, so I had to improvise. When the water is boiling, add the rice. Cook it only for a few minutes until you can break the grains easily between your fingers. Mine took about 4 minutes. Next, we're making a sugar solution. So we're frying 1 tablespoon of sugar in a pan with some oil over medium-high heat until brown. Then we're adding a 1/4 cup of water. Now it's time to check if the meat is done. This was ready after about 1 hour. Now we're almost ready to assemble everything in a pot and cooking it. I'm placing the meat in a bowl, and I'm also pouring the broth into a separate pot, since I'm going to use the same pot that I cooked the meat in to assemble everything. So first we're placing about half of the rice in the bottom of the pot, then the meat, then some of the broth, then the rest of the rice, followed by the sugar solution, then a little less than 1 tablespoon of the spice mix. I'm also adding a bit more of the broth. Then we poke a few holes in the rice to allow the steam to escape. We place the raisins and carrots on top, place a sheet of aluminum foil over it, put the lid on, and let it cook over medium-low heat for about 25 minutes. Finally, it's time to plate up. We're placing some rice and lamb on the bottom, and we're topping it with the raisins and carrots. Okay, time to taste. This really came together quite well. The broth is very good, and the carrots and raisins add a nice sweetness to the dish. I added less of the spice mix than the recipe calls for, which was a good decision, I think. Had I added more, it would probably be a little overpowering. Especially the taste of the cloves is a bit too dominant in my opinion. But overall, really tasty.